All right, so for our last session now, we're gonna, as teachers, have a chance to actually try out Champs and Achieve. So I'm gonna get back to where we were. So we know that we want to be positive and launch our classroom management plan in the first 4 weeks. Before you're ready to do that, you really want to practice with Champs and Achieve. You want to see exactly how to use them as a way to manage activities in your classroom. So you can use whichever one you like better. You can use both. I've tried both. I've included on the slideshow the links. So this blue one up here is the blank one. This is all in the Google Drives, so it'll be a PDF that you can make as many copies as you want, and you can see it's an editable PDF. So I would recommend doing this for every single routine you have in your classroom, from entering class to bell ringers to taking notes to classwork to homework. I mean, test taking, review days, definitely review days, substitute days. I would make one for all of it. Some teachers will
choose a blank copy. Jeff, sorry for interrupting. The blank copy, it says request and access needed.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share that, reshare that. All right, now it's good. All right. And then I forgot to share with you now, Justin, didn't I? Let me reshare. So the nice thing is these are Google Docs that you can make, or they're PDFs within our Google Drives that you can make as many copies as you want. Our division leader in our department in the math has already put them in folders for us even so that they're all listed. There's other samples other than just mine. This is literally just one that I did I wanted to think through how I wanted my bell ringers to look, etc. You'll need the book to reference some of the stuff we'll see on here. Because, for instance, one of the things that you're going to choose is volume level and talking level, and the book has a code on that. There's mine, and there's your blank before you type on it. So these are really useful for you to think through. So for instance, the first thing you do is, so mine, I chose bell ringer. Can students engage in conversations with each other? I mean, that's important because I walk into some teachers' rooms and their bell ringer is really quiet. Students are working on their own because the teacher wants them to first reflect individually before they reflect as a class. And that's great. There's probably days where every teacher wants something like that. But then in my class, what I like to see is I use my bell ringer as my QCR. And in math, we call that our quick, crisp review. It's part of I want to know if you got out of yesterday or the day before, or maybe just even this unit, what I'm hoping you got out of, so that in math, I know you know the prerequisites for the skills I'm going to teach today. So it's my way of seeing how are our prereqs doing. I already know in my mind, like maybe 70% haven't mastered or maybe only 30%, but that's the purpose of my bell ringer. So therefore, I said, yes, they can engage in conversations with each other. If yes, about what? For me, this is so important. This is part of my classroom culture. It's about how to do the problems, not about the answers. If I hear a student be like, what'd you get on number 1? Another student, 16. That's not a conversation I'm okay with. So students, by putting this on paper, and I know some kids are never going to watch this or read this because you might choose to print these out. You might just choose to project them before the activity. That's your choice. But some students are not, you can say, oh, this will avoid all these problems. No, we know that some kids aren't going to listen, and that's okay. Because if I have the majority of the class channeled toward my expectation, it'll be a lot easier to handle the situations where students aren't working toward those expectations. But I want students to know, well, why didn't you say anything to Julie when she was talking to Mindy? It's like, because they were talking about how to do the problem. They were like, well, did you add 5 to both sides or did you subtract 5 to both sides? They weren't just saying the answer is 16 or the answer is 21. And so that's why you put that in there. Voice level. So that's in the book. The book talks about voice levels. Not gonna lie, I don't have it memorized yet, but it's in the book. but a 2 is quiet conversation. 0 is no talking at all. So if you want them to be completely quiet, you 0 them out. But yeah, like I said, my 2 is they can talk to each other, just at a quiet conversation. It shouldn't be shouting across the room. It shouldn't be shouting at me. 1 is whispering. I don't know, maybe it's because I used to get on my report cards, does not know how to whisper. So I just don't believe anyone knows how to whisper. But I wouldn't. So 0 is no talking. 1 is whisper. 2 is quiet conversation. Yeah, I did pretty good. 3 is presentation voice. Okay. And 4 is outside voice, what I call teacher voice. So like right now I'm talking in a 3/4. I don't want kids talking that loud during my bell ringer, but I want them to be able to be like, hey, how should we do this problem? Do you remember this problem from yesterday? Things like that. So, so that's what you're going to answer on your paper. With whom? Anyone nearby. So for me, that's anyone on either side of you. For you, maybe you have your desks in pairs, maybe you have your desks in 4s. Well, you would put in your group of 4 or in your group of 2 or with your shoulder partner. So you would put however you want. How many students can be involved? I'm biased. I like 3. In fact, when my desks are arranged, they're always in groups of 3. I like 3. I feel like 4 gets too loud. I feel like 2, the problem is awkward. Like, oh, yeah, I don't know what to do. And then they don't talk at all, or someone's absent, so then they're by themselves. So I like 3. 3 is my magic number. How long should the conversations last? I put 30 seconds to a minute because, yeah, I don't want them just running on and on. And I will, again, as part of my classroom management, I talked about, I understand I will have selective ignoring if I hear them say, oh, did you get the Taylor Swift pre-code? No, I didn't get it. I'm going to let that go for a few seconds. But if that gets up to 30 seconds to a minute, well, now they know I'm going to step in. Because, okay, we're not talking about how Taylor Swift is going to Indianapolis next year. All right? That is not our topic. We'll worry about that later. All right, we'll talk about the probability of actually getting Taylor Swift tickets. All right. Help. So then this is important. How do students get their answers questions? Because in my room, what I don't want is a kid to have sat there and said, well, you never came by my desk and asked me. So I got to put on there. You've got to ask the other students. I've said it 1,000 times. All this CHAMPS activity does, because I don't want you to see it as extra paperwork. The CHAMPS activity allows you to put on paper what's already in your mind, or that you have said 1,000 times out loud in your classroom. So now let's just put it on paper so you don't have to say it 1,000 more. I always tell students, ask each other. If you honestly don't understand and you wait for me, here's a problem. There's 30 of you, there's 1 of me. Even if I took 30 seconds per student, that's 15 minutes. That's too much time. We can't take that much time. So I tell them that's really, and again, did you notice there? I gave my rationale. Positive classroom management always gives the kids your rationale. You don't just say, no, I'm not answering all your questions today. Give them the rationale of why, because otherwise we lose teaching time and now even more people have questions. I do say if you are going to wait for me, you got to make sure you raise your hand so that I know to go over there, and that way avoids disruption. All right. And that way I can avoid the kids who go, well, I was going out of my desk to get help from so-and-so. I'm like, no, you weren't. You were just going over there to cause trouble. If students have to wait for help, what should they do? I like to tell kids, look back at your notes from yesterday. In my class, and I think this is important in a lot of classes, there's nothing on today that yesterday wouldn't help you do. That's my goal. My goal is to have a smooth transition between what I taught yesterday and what I'm teaching today. So therefore, I like to tell them, hey, you know what? Go look at your notes from yesterday. All right? I bet it'll help you out. And notice I gave away my button because I pictured it. Do not move around the room. Like, that is one of my triggers, and I need to tell kids that. If I see the back of a student, 1, I know they're not asking for math help. 2, it's just driving me crazy. I'm not looking at people's backs. All right? So I put that on paper so that the students understand. Man, I don't know why Mr. Noble got mad at me today. It's right there. It's in the print. All right, that's the H. A, activity. What's expected? What's your end product? Now, I want the students to know, are they turning it in? Do I want right answers? Like, back when I was in school, and you guys are about the same age as me, some of you, it was all about reading out their answers. And then we had to mark which ones we got right, which ones we got wrong, and we turn in, they expect us to be honest, which I thought was funny, by the way. And all the teacher cared about is 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 3 out of 5, whatever it was. I want them to know, no. My end product is that you have some work down, all right? You're prepared to discuss what you wrote down. I might have students who are prepared to come up to the board to work out the problems in front of other students. And I probably don't have enough in my activity blank. I should probably put more about that. I want students who are ready to come up and do problems for other kids, with other kids, as examples. So that's the purpose of the activity part. Movement. Can they get out of their seats? We already talked about that. Now, why? Now, this is part of my when you come in the room. You're always allowed to sharpen your pencil or pick up a pencil or pick up your paper. Some teachers don't like that. They're like, if you didn't pick up the bell ring on the way in, they don't want that interruption of a kid walking. I'm okay with that in my room because a little bit of movement's okay. I guess I'm a little hyper category, so I don't mind if kids are kind of moving around. So if I know they're walking up to this table where I keep my bell ringers, I know why. All right. So, and yes, I purposely, because we talked about this trigger, I don't like it when kids walk in front of me. I do have my bell ringer where they never have to walk in front of me, basically. It's kind of interesting. See, that's to me what the great thing about this book. It got me to reflect on why I do the routines I do and how they work for me. Now notice I didn't put restroom, drink, because obviously, no, I'm not okay with you just letting yourself out of the room to go to the restroom or go get a drink. We know there's no restroom or drink in the bell ringer time because that's the first and last 5 minutes of class. Participation. Students should be working on the problems as far as they can or asking their neighbors for help. What behavior is not participating? Because I used to always get students who are like, Mr. Noble, why'd you take away my participation points today? So this is why. If you're on your cell phone, your head's down, or you're off topic the entire time and I couldn't get you redirected, yeah, that to me is your participation points. That's your classwork. And I admit, I like to keep my life simple. Some teachers, they collect all their bell ringers and then they go through one at a time. They go to their grade book, they go to their Skyward, Johnny, 5, Jimmy, 5. And then at the end, they put zeros for all the other kids. That to me is a whole lot of work. All right. Notice I didn't actually put under activity that I would, once they turn it in, I give them their points. That's because I give the points by participating and looking around the room. I saw that Christian was on his phone the entire time and never once looked up because I saw the top of his head. Never once saw his eyeballs. Never once saw his pencil move. I saw the top of his head because he's looking down his lap trying to hide his phone. All right. Or I saw so-and-so up out of their desk constantly and I had to remind him. So that to me, now, boom, I just put in my mind who my participation, my classwork points for today are not going to go to. And I can have that as a positive conversation. Mr. Noble, you need me to turn this in? No, dude. High five. I saw you work the whole time. But Mr. Noble, I didn't get number 3 done. Dude, you worked the whole time. You were working on the process that I needed you to work on to show me that you can do today's work. You are good. And they're stunned. They're like, you don't? I'm like, if you really want to hand it to me, just turn it in. And some kids have to. Like, they're like, yeah, I have to turn it in. That's like my parents taught me to turn everything in. And that's fine too. But that's not how I do my classwork. So now when I was a newer teacher and I couldn't remember, I got to admit my memory's bad now, so I should probably do it again. I had a seating chart with just 5 little boxes under each kid's name. And all I had to do is put in there, like a circle means yes, they got it, or an X means no. And by the way, if they're absent, I could also exit, which only tells me I'm not trying to give them a 0 for the day. It reminds me to give them the bell ringer the day they come back. So nowadays I would make it on Excel probably to make it simple, but back then I just used a ruler and made it. So I'd have everybody's name on my seating chart with a row of 5 X's, and I admit I'd only do it by the month, so I'd have 4 rows of 5. Boom, I have a month of classwork on one sheet of paper, easy to flip each period. It's also my seating chart for subs, and then I can mark classwork. So that was how I did classwork. It worked really well for me. Oh yeah, and I forgot the S for success, really important. Success. I want to tell the kids what I consider success. Success is knowing what we know and knowing what we don't know. That's the purpose of the bell ringer. So that I know what you know and I know what you don't know. And you know what you know and you know what you don't know. So I can tell kids who got a 0 on the bell ringer, like, dude, the only reason it hurts is you don't know if you can do these problems. And then you get the smart aleck goes, but Mr. Noble, you know I know how to do the problems. I do, but you didn't prove it to me. So sit down and prove it to me and we're good. So that is CHAMPS. All right. And yes, the whole goal of this doesn't cover everything. Okay, like note taking would be totally different. Tests, totally different. Review days, I would have to do. My review days are a little crazy in Mr. Noble's room. All right, don't come unless you got your caffeine in you because we're going crazy and trying to do as many problems as we can and make it a game or whatever. So my review day, I'd have to have a very specific CHAMPS. So that is CHAMPS. And I want you all to have a practice filling them out sometime and then whether it's with an instructional coach or another person in your team, I know this puts you outside your comfort zone for some of you. Share it. Share it with each other. Say, what do you think? If you walked in my room, would you know exactly what I meant by this? Because I get to do that because I get to observe all of you. But you all don't get to observe each other, unfortunately. We just don't have enough time in our days. So this gives you a chance to go, oh, that's what Ms. Balin's class looks like, right? Like part of hers. I know that she has all the kids put their phones in yonder bags, and then they pick up their bell ringer, and they turn them in. Like, I know exactly what the beginning of her class should look like. And then what's cool is then I got to observe her, and it looked exactly like I thought. So it's kind of cool. Try it, please, if you like. And I'm going to show you Achieve next, but Champs really works. And so if I had more live participants, I'd actually have you fill one out and have it, but we're going to go ahead and keep moving on. All right, Achieve. What's different? It's a different acronym slightly. A lot of the blanks felt exactly the same. Okay, it's just a different acronym with slightly different, things. So I'm going to go a little, again, I know I'm going to, for Justin right now and for everybody else, I got to change the sharing to everybody with the link. I'll do that here in a second. So there's the blank one, there's mine. So it's set, the A is activity, the C is conversation, very similar, notice. A lot of the exact same answers. H is still help. I is integrity. So this is really important to a lot of teachers. Like, what do they consider the integrity way of doing this activity? This would be really important on a test and things. So for instance, I can now write, I expect students to share ideas, but not answers and copy. I don't want you copying down. I used to literally get this in algebra. Kids would copy line by line every single part of solving a problem. And I'd be like, why did you add 3 on both sides? Well, Mr. Obi, you know it's right. You don't know why, do you? Because you copied it. So then I can talk about that. E is effort, which is similar to participation on the other one. What behaviors demonstrate active participation? V is value. What active participation? Why is this a value? I see the reason, I guess, a teacher said to me that they like Achieve probably better than Champs for the high school. You know what? Probably a lot of it's this V because it gives you the rationalization ready to say to the kids. Why do I value what you're doing right now? Okay, so notice what I put because this is really important to me. If we don't practice what we do, we don't get better at it. Now, you can't even tell me otherwise. I mean, and you know me, I'm going to go into my practice. I mean, we're talking about practice. We're not talking about game. We're talking about practice. And for you young people, Allen Iverson, look it up. So Allen Iverson didn't believe in practice, all right? But he actually did. Because
my comeback for Allen Iverson is, how many times did you practice a jump shot in your lifetime?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Allen,
come back for that.
Right. And as Justin said, I would actually argue, I bet Allen Iverson had a huge practice ethic. So that's why he didn't put the value on going to the public team practice as much as maybe some of the media or other people did. Because you knew he knew his stuff. You watch Allen Iverson's game, he clearly practiced. So now on the other hand, if you had a chance to watch the Johnny Footballs thing on Netflix, you know he didn't value practice, and that's why he didn't make it in the NFL. All right. And what's funny is I think he thought that series made him look like, or that movie made him look like a victim and we'd all feel bad for him. And no, it actually just did a good job showing exactly why he was the failure he was. He had a lot of gifts and talents, but wasn't willing to put in the work to get better. And then this was my chance to talk about the BAG acronym, which I have on another page too. I'm going to show you. BAG is huge. Belief, action, and growth. It's not based on my research. I took it from other people's research. It's part of the growth mindset research, which is growth mindset is not just, I believe I can do anything. Yay, I win. All right, we already talked. Hope doesn't do anything. All right, faith is like belief. It's action. So belief is belief in yourself, belief in your teacher, and belief in what you're doing each day that gets you better. Action is actually doing it. Action by you, action by the teacher. Okay, they've got to give you feedback. You got to do the work. And then growth reinforces those two things. Because if you grow now, you believe more. And if you believe more, you're willing to act more. And then guess what? You grow more. And then that brings you back to more belief, more action, more growth. And that is what they've shown works with Olympians, with high-level doctoral candidates, things like that. The BAG acronym really, really works. Okay, it's not just a blind belief. It is all together. And then efficiency, again, is how can you provide more student productivity? Like what tips can you give them? So like I used to tell kids, stop copying down my notes word for word. All right, when I taught honors geometry, the kids would literally just copy down the diagrams and not think about them, not ask about them, not talk about them. They would draw a tangent, a secant, and I'd be like, what's a tangent? I don't know. you labeled it A-B. No, no, no. Okay, so I can now say what's going to make you more productive is if, yes, you pay attention during the note taking, but you have to actually participate, come to the board, ask questions, and you have to be willing to be wrong in order to get better. But I have to say that out loud to the kids because a lot of kids are afraid to be wrong out loud. And sometimes that's teachers because we react not the greatest when kids are wrong, but we just got to encourage it. Like that's the whole idea of the mathematic is experience first, including being right and being wrong, formalize later. Once you've seen what works and what kind of doesn't work, now can we come up with rules and algorithms that'll make us more efficient at it? So that I think Achieve is a great thing. I think Champs and Achieve are both great. It's up to you which one you guys want to use, but I really recommend you at least before the school year starts for yourself. You don't have to ever print this in your classroom if you don't want. You don't have to publish it. I would recommend it, but it's up to you because you want student feedback, in my opinion. So they can say, yep, Mr. Noble, you're not lying. That's exactly what it looks like in your room. Or they can go, Noble, come on, man, who are you faking? All right, you expect us to like da-da-da-da, and then you can add that to it. But I would really think about every routine in your class. Exit slips, everything. Homework. Do you bring it back to school? Do you turn it in online? Like Google Classroom. Do you expect kids to ever actually use it? You know, I stopped updating my Google Classroom because my expectation was I don't use it. I don't expect you guys to use it. So I could post a copy of everything I want there, but I'm not really following through or caring if you watch it. So then I didn't do it. But if I'm going to use it and I'm going to post the solutions to reviews or quizzes on there for kids to learn from, I need to make an Achieve for that. How to use the Google Classroom, what to use the Google Classroom for. Are all my missing assignments on the Google Classroom? AP Classroom is a huge thing now. They're trying to beef it up. They're making it closer to the actual AP. And what Lamont just told me is AP tests are going to be online starting soon too, 100% of them. So is it 5 years still? Okay. So the point is though, we got to use the Google Classroom so that they get used to those tools. Like if I have to show my math using a keyboard and mouse or something on a problem, on a free response problem, I got to have the kids on there doing it. So I would make an Achieve on how to use AP Classroom. Okay, I still think it's worthwhile, even if you only use it a little bit, because we got to get kids all signed up for their tests through it and know where the review videos are and know where the review problems are. So that is Champs and Achieve. That's the part where we as teachers, we're going to build our collective efficacy. Because if I know I'm doing it and I know the rest of my team is doing it, and then I can share what's working in my room and they can see my belief, then I'm hoping I can transfer that belief to them. And then they bring back what they did and what works and doesn't work, and we all get better that way. Collective efficacy, and I'm going to get this wrong. So if you guys know John Hattie's work, he likes to find what things make the biggest impact on student learning. All right, not just student engagement, that too, but actual student learning. So like test scores or whatever they use. All right, the number one right now is collective staff efficacy. Okay, it used to be teacher self-efficacy. Okay, when teachers believe in themselves. And we talked about that in the last session, how it's really important that you believe that you can classroom manage and content manage. All right, but now the biggest one is a collective staff efficacy. And I see why. Because the longer I knew that, great, if I have a student who had Mrs. King for Honors Algebra 1, I know they're going to step into my honors geometry ready to solve equations, ready to do systems, or ready to factor. Because those are the three algebraic skills that are huge in my class, and I know I need to know how they know how to do them. That is huge, collective efficacy. Collective efficacy. I know that Mr. Noble has tried side conversations, he's tried contacting parents, he's tried humor, he's tried goal setting, he's tried motivation, he's tried rewards, he's tried personal conversations in the hallway. So when he writes a referral to me and I'm a dean processing it, I'm like, no, I know Mr. Noble did what he needs to do and tried everything he can try. Now I'm gonna have his back when I talk to Johnny about that behavior. All right, and I felt I always had that from the deans. All right, so I always felt supported by the deans, but I know not everyone does, and I think it's because we need to build our collective efficacy. We got to communicate with each other. Counselors, they got to know that we have their backs. We're not just going, oh, you know what, change your class. You don't like it, blah, blah. And they put them in the right classes. We're going to help them. It's a collective staff efficacy we got to work on. And I think if we all are working on Champs or Achieve, and we're sharing with each other, and we're sharing with the kids our rationales, then I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to have the collective staff efficacy. And by the way, that is why Lamont has put such a huge emphasis on the 5 essential surveys. A lot of those 5 essential survey questions get at collective staff efficacy. Think about it. We've all filled it out. All right, unless you're a new teacher to our district, you filled it out. Ask questions like, do you feel supported by your principal? Does your principal do this? Do your administrators do this? Do the teachers do this? Do you feel supported by your other staff members? If you bring a idea to the staff, does it listen to? It's all in there. All right, so that's our goal. I'm going to play for you a minute. Sorry. So I talked about BAG. All right, grit. So grit is a little bit unmeasurable. It was brought up by Angela Duckworth, great book. All right, it's important. Grit is defined as persistence and consistency. It's one of the most measurable skills in successful students. Grit. But recent research has shown grit was lacking one thing. So now they say it's actually hardiness. And so they've created a hardiness scale instead of a grit scale. Hardiness, let me define it for you. It's the ability to handle stress and change. Okay, the ability to handle stress and change. Now, let me ask you something. We all know about the teacher shortage and teacher stress. Is this one of our problems? Is hardiness? Are we having a hardiness problem in the teaching industry? Because I think we are. We all know it. All right. Some years I'm like ready to cash out. I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain is going. All right. New teachers, they're like so frustrated at times. It's a hardiness. We got to handle stress and change. So what I'm about to show you is affecting teacher hardiness. But wait, isn't this also something that students, especially in high school, they need to handle the stress and change? School suddenly super matters. All right. Every grade they get goes on a GPA that determines college, that determines trade school, that determines graduation. All right. They're big kids now. So big kids mean big consequences. So now, as we talked about earlier, if you have a car wreck, it's not just, oh, I fell off my bike. It's, I just wrecked a $2,000 car and blah, blah, blah. And I hurt 3 people, whatever. It's everything is more stressful, bigger problems with change. So here's what they found. The research has shown 3 C's go into hardiness. You got to be able to demonstrate commitment, exert control, and be open to challenge. So as teachers, we need to demonstrate commitment. We got to work on our hardiness, be able to demonstrate the commitment to the students, to ourselves, to each other. All right, we got to be able to exert control. Isn't that the whole point of classroom management? We need to be able to exert control over our room. Okay, but we also have to give the students the right within that classroom management to exert control over themselves. That's why we don't go up in their faces and yell at them, because then we're taking away their control. Okay, and we got to be open to challenge, both to ourselves and to them, and that's scary. Oops. All right, so my big question was, I read that research. I'm like, I agree. That hardiness is huge. How do we grow it? So this is one of the national experts on hardiness. So first of all, I'm going to reveal where I get a lot of my growth mindset and other stuff. This guy's name is Trevor Reagan. He does all kinds of growth mindset stuff. He went to Duke University. He worked with a lot of Olympic athletes, and he did a ton of research. And now what he does, he goes out and finds other people who are in charge of research. And so, I'm going to need to, Justin, do you see this or no? Is it sharing the screen? Oh, it is? Okay. All right, now, the whole video is good, but we don't have time for all of it. So I'm just going to fast forward us to the 14-minute mark where they talk. So I encourage you to watch all this, but this is going to talk about how to grow hardiness, because that's really, as teachers, what we got to do, grow it in ourselves and our students.
Actually use to do that. In the book, my book with Steve Stein, we talk about some of the ways, some of the details in terms of how it can be trained or coached.
I don't hear anything.
Kind of military textbook. And there was a chapter in it by Paul Bartone that talked about different strategies of building hardiness. And they sort of divided up into 3 C's. I'm going to just read directly from it. Tips for building hardiness commitment. Take some time to think about what is important to you, what's interesting to you, your personal values and goals. Work on increasing your skills and competence in some area that's important to you.
All right, now, Justin, I don't know if you heard it. Did you hear it that time when I played it?
Nope.
Okay.
And I heard some mumbling, but nothing really got coherent.
All right. Luckily, the other video I'm recording would hear it because it's just on volume. Let me replay it. Hang on for my share. Let me stop sharing that. I'm going to share a different tab because then it'll say, hey, do you want to share the volume? Share tab audio. All right, this should work for you, Justin. All right, tell me if you can hear this.
Makes a ton of sense. Think about when we learn something new,
you hear that,
got
Justin?
the type of seeds that plants. One is,
Justin, can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear now.
Okay. All right, hang on. I want to replay it at 14. I knew this was going to happen. I want you to hear the very beginning again, because then I would have the discussion.
What are some strategies that you and I can actually use to do that?
In the book, my book with Steve Stein, we talk about some of the ways, some of the details in terms of how it can be trained or coached.
I found a military textbook, and there was a chapter in it by Paul Bartone that talked about different strategies of building hardiness.
So
and they sort of divided up into the 3 C's. I'm going to just read directly from it. Tips for building hardiness commitment. Take some time to think about what is important to you, what's interesting to you, your personal values and goals. Work on increasing your skills.
Do we ever talk about that with students? Isn't that part of our positive classroom management? We need to talk about what's interesting to them, what builds their passions and stuff. Like when we find that, obviously Kamari was an important person to me, someone that I was able to make connection. It's because I found his passion. And then Kaneki further found it by helping him in football. And it's only sometimes when we find those that we really help kids with their commitment to school.
And competence in some area that's important to you. Take pride in your past success and achievements. Pay attention to what's going on in the world around you. Read and observe. Try new things. Tips for developing hardiness control. Focus your time and energy on things you can control and influence in your life. Work on tasks that are within your capabilities, but also moderately difficult. Break difficult jobs into manageable pieces so you can see incremental progress.
Break difficult tasks into smaller, meaningful pieces. What do we call that in education? Scaffolding and differentiation. I mean, that's why scaffolding and differentiation are so important. We've got to break it down for the kids, because the kids that are overwhelmed by the whole day, by the entire lesson, by, oh my gosh, solving a system of equations, there are so many parts. Break it down. It will help the kids' hardiness. We can't just overwhelm them.
Ask for help when you need it. Recognize your successes. And when you're confronted with a problem that you can't solve, turn your attention to things that you actually can control. Strategies for building hardiness challenge. Remind yourself that change is an opportunity to grow. Do not live every day by a rigid schedule. Allow some variation and surprises. Be willing to change your plans to meet changing conditions. When you do fail, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Try new things, take reasonable risks. Try not to dwell on disappointments. Learn, forgive, and look ahead. So like I said.
So one of the reasons why I think this is such important work for us as teachers before the school year starts, I know which part of hardiness I struggled with, and it's change. I can't do it. I can't go up to a store clerk and ask a question because I don't know the answer to the question I'm about to ask them. I will not go into it. Like if my wife sends me a list, like buy some object and I have no idea where it is, and I've grocery shopped all the time. I'm like in Kroger, I know every aisle, and I don't know where it is. I will literally start freaking out. I mean, like in getting angry. I'll get angry on the phone. I'll be like, no, I'm not buying that object. And I just know I have a lack of hardiness when it comes to change. So guess what? In the school day, and some of us do this, we get an email first hour, please excuse your third hour juniors for something. How many of us go, are you kidding me? Third hour, I was planning on giving a quiz and now I'm going to lose half my... Deep breaths, build our hardiness toward change. It's inevitable. There's going to be things that happen around the school. Please excuse this. We're going to, Alice drill, hold in place. Don't excuse your kids to next period. All right. Figure out something else. Come up with some other activity. Hey, maybe that's a great time to figure out what your students' passions are. We know that things are going to change, and that's my weakness. That's my hardiness weakness. I'm pretty good at the other two, but change and me don't get along. So Trevor Reagan, great person. I got to switch what I'm sharing now. So now I'm going to show you. All right, and then one of his other ones that I really liked is the power of reflection. And I admit, I've talked about that a lot during this presentation as I want teachers to reflect before they start trying to teach. And yes, so this is more of that. But I think I'm just gonna have you listen to the first minute of this. It's really powerful.
Imagine you're taking part in an experiment. They give you 5 math puzzles and 20 seconds to solve each one. When you finish up, they say, okay, you're going to do another round of puzzles in a few minutes. But before then, you have a choice. You can spend the next 3 minutes practicing more puzzles, or you can spend the next 3 minutes reflecting on the practice that you just did. Which one would you choose? Well, if you're like me, it's practice. Of course it is. This is an actual experiment that they ran in real life. And 2 really interesting things happened. First, 82% of the participants, just like you and I, they chose practice. And after those 3 minutes of either reflection or practice, the participants take on round 2 of the puzzles. The reflection group outperforms the practice group. Huh.
Totally. Wait, what?
So, just doing practice isn't enough. Saying, oh, I gave my kids, homework on that. I gave my kids a classwork on that. Great. That's great. It really is. But we got to give kids and ourselves, right? I can't just have you, hey, here teachers, all fill out a CHAMPS, fill out an Achieve, fill out a new classroom management plan, fill out new expectations. Reflect. Reflect on what's worked, what hasn't worked. If you're a new teacher, reflect on what you'd like to work. You can absolutely reflect on teachers that you enjoyed and teachers you didn't enjoy, but you're going to learn as a teacher, students being on this side and that side are so different. You think you're trying to mimic what you thought worked when you were in school, but at least for me, it didn't work that way. So you can, again, watch the whole video. The link's in there. It's really good, but reflection. Give students time to reflect. Not just give another worksheet. Not just give another. That's why one of my expectations is, yes, I will use every minute of every day, but no, it won't be busy work. Because sometimes we just need to talk. Guys, what do you think about? Did you guys get what I was trying to teach today? Like, did that go over your heads? Like, let them reflect. Why was that lesson important? Things like that. So that's what I want you to do with your classroom management plan is reflect. Spend time reflecting and plan for how you're going to give students time to reflect within your room, including like after a really bad day around the building. Let's say there is a bad day. The B100 music party thing happens again, block party. All right, give them time to reflect. Why was that bad for the school? Yeah, it seemed funny. Make great TikToks. But why as a school was there panic among teachers and administrators? What was the problem around the building? And then the students will usually come up with the right ideas. They really will. So that's reflection. And then our final thing is I have 5 classroom management plans linked in their presentation. We're probably not going to have time to look through them all, which is fine. But before, let's see, should I do it before or after? You know what? I actually will. So the first one, this again, if you're creative, this is awesome. I do wonder if this teacher first started doing this during COVID because it looks like it might have been set up for a remote learning.
Welcome to art class, and I'm so excited to have you here this semester.
They literally made a Bitmoji adorable classroom management plan.
Please follow along with your worksheet, and of course I don't mind if you draw or color quiet.
So notice, right from the get-go, and I'm not going to make you watch it all, it's 4 minutes, but they already said, of course you may draw or doodle while I do this. Guess what? That's part of that classroom management plan we talked about earlier. Tell kids if it's okay to do other things. All right, well, I'm going over the expectations. I never once told them what I expect them to do. I should have said, I would love for your eyes to be on me the whole time. I'm like an actor on the stage right now. Yeah, I know there's print on paper and you might look down at it occasionally. That's fine. But otherwise, I want your eyes on me because you might miss something. So I should have put that in there. So anyway, so she has both the paper one that we can see she gives the kids. All right, lots of cute little boxes with all the different things in it. Your pass policy, your grading, your attendance content. You know, it looks like a normal syllabus, attendance, expectation plan, whatever. But by making it this awesome video with Bitmojis, it's just
If you have questions
cute.
about art class or projects, or if your parents need to get a hold of me, email
You
is
even
the best way to
contact
do
her if you
that.
really want to, what she thought about what
Every
she
day you
made.
come to class, you can
So that's one idea of a classroom management plan. All right, here's mine. It's not super exciting, I admit. I used the template straight out of the book that they gave us. All right, I did not add any cue boxes. I didn't do any of that. But I really thought about mine. So have a growth mindset, respect yourself and others, give your best, appropriately advocate for yourself. So I might even be using too big of words. But one of the things I added, be curious. In my class, if you're not curious, you and I are going to fight because I'm going to try to keep getting you to be curious. And my lessons will seem boring or drab if you don't have any curiosity to them. Attention signal. So I chose to put the one on here that's my clean one, like eyes on me. So I guess I might as well tell a story. So my daughter was 2. Maybe this is the other problem with Elizabeth. I keep acting like she's a problem. She's a great kid, smart kid, good goal kid. But I used to always go, eyes on the prize, eyes on the prize. All right. I think sometimes maybe her eyes are too much on the prize. She needs to look around at life too. But I'll be like, all students, eyes on me, eyes on me. And I admit, I got that from a Jimmy V speech. If you ever watched the Jimmy V speech during the Dick Vitale basketball tournament thing, it's all about cancer research and that. And he's like, eyes on me, eyes on me. And I loved it. I just love the way he said it. So I do that. But I also have another one that I can do live on here. It's, and I can make a pterodactyl noise. And I don't know when I learned to do that with the back of my voice, but I did. And I like to warn kids ahead of time so that they know, who just did that? All right. And it's just, so I have those weird things I do that get their attention. I admit I can't be the teacher who stands like this, I know it just sounds Mockingjay. I don't know why I think it's the Mockingjay, but teachers who like hold their finger in the air to get people to be quiet. That's not me. I couldn't do that. But if you do that, awesome. I bet the kids will respect it and love it. Just you got to sell it. So why? Why do you do it that way? So anyway, so my attention signal's in there. How to enter class. Notice, do not bang on the door. We talked about that last session. Like that's my trigger, and I have to put that on paper so that they know. How to do opening activities, how to pick up pencils, all of it's in here. And of course, I'm gonna have forgotten things. That's the whole point of what we talked about. You're gonna modify this as you observe. Oh, I have some gaps, and then I put it in. So here's mine. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I did not finish all the bottom ones like procedures for family contact and stuff. I just did all of mine up to dismissal. Okay, and then once I make my champs and achieve, I would probably just link them in here, honestly, or something. Make this a live Google Doc. So that one's mine. This to me is it still looks like a syllabus, still looks like classroom expectation, and I would hope that we could liven it up because to me this just seems very negative. All right, and I'm not saying this teacher is negative. The teacher's probably a great teacher. That's probably why they do it this way. But to me, I still see the 1980s and 90s. First offense, second offense, subsequent offense. And it's just very straightforward. All right, to me, there's no, hey, I'm going to try to get through to you. It's like, hey, if you're severely disruptive, I'm writing you up. And then be careful about putting ultimatums that you can't back up. Cheating will not be tolerated. That's a tough one because kids are going to cheat in your class. So now, if you say that, they're going to think you're here, and there's a war. It's on. It's on. Now we're on opposite sides. So to me, you got to put your why. Why do you not want cheating? Why does it hurt them overall and not just their grade? Like, why is it hurting them to be successful in learning in your class? Things like that. So, but I have that in there as just a very straightforward one. Miss Smith's, I really like this because even though it's just still kind of straightforward, like throwing a little emoji or not emoji, meme at the beginning. Throw in different font. There's their consequences, but you know what I really liked about theirs? They talk about their different techniques. Like, I don't know what back to the wall is, but she does. So that's why everybody's classroom management plans are going to look different. All right. What is with itness? I have no idea, but she does. So maybe that's like you got to be mentally present too. All of this stuff, super important. And then her list of procedures. And then she has effective teaching strategies she's going to use. She lets them know I'm going to try to use humor. I'm going to try to do hands-on. All right. That's what can go into your classroom management. So I've given you 5 samples of classroom management plans. All right. Now the last one is a college project. You can tell because it's by Claudia Beckford with a professor. But what I really like, and you don't have to make this up like a PowerPoint, obviously, because I'm guessing she did it for a class. But she likes to go into what's really in them. I'll be sharing my key values and beliefs. Again, let them know who you are. My key belief that students know is I believe they can all learn. I believe it. And that you're all coming in different places. I truly believe every kid can learn. Okay? Talks about intrinsic motivation for the students, things like that. So this has a lot of pieces. This goes on pretty long, but the key is it has a lot of pieces you might choose to put into yours. Okay? I want my students to be responsible. They should be able to give an account for their actions. See, like, I don't have that in mind, but you know what? Some teachers do. Like, why did you take 10 minutes, like, to go to the restroom? And they might be honest, so you be careful about asking questions you don't know the answer to. So those are 5. We're getting close to the end of time though, and I want to wrap it up. So, but those are 5 things. But here's your why. Okay? Why do we have to have classroom management plans? And there's only 3 minutes, and we'll wrap it up with that. But this is why you do. And Justin, tell me if you're not going to be able to hear it.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child.
Can you hear that, Justin? Oh, maybe he's not still there.
One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled.
I can't hear it.
And I didn't struggle. One that's always stuck out.
All right, I want Justin to be able to hear this real quick, so I'm just going to do the different. I'm going to just share a different tab again. All right, so this is the tab. That's this one.
Hey, Jeff, I can click the link on my own.
No. I'm going to do this right.
Oh, jeez.
I'm going to respect you. I'm going to respect you the right way. All right, here we go.
To me, though, I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Kid, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." So I did. I went back to class. When I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me. And I will never forget it. So I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "No, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he asked, he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." From that moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time, when somebody believed in me, and he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
So, to me, that's why we do classroom management plans. We have to, had that same problem earlier. I couldn't get out of a video, could I? I'll just do the same thing I did earlier. Now, can we all plan to have drumsticks on our desk? No. Can we all plan that that's what's going to solve a kid's problems? No. But we have to be willing and open to see what challenges they're facing and see how we can help them turn those challenges into a strength. So if you have a big talker, maybe they need to go into student government. You know, you have somebody who can't stay in their seat, you can think about other things they can do to help channel, you know, how being in their seat is helpful. That's right, I remember what I did last time. I just opened it up again. So that's 3 minutes, 3 minutes that I want you to share with as many teachers as you know. You can share it with students. I would share it with students, absolutely. I don't know why it's opening a new. Every time I click one, it just opens in a new tab. I must have held something down that makes it think it needs to do that. All right, so think about, well, okay, my board's just done listening to me apparently. Because it's not going to let me share my screen anymore, Justin, but you're good. Think about how you can use your classroom management plan to plan for students. Plan for individual students, their individualities, their quirks, their challenges, their troubles, and how we're going to be able to help them with them. Justin, you can click the slideshow to see this. So I have 6 motivational videos on the next to last screen that are ones that I've shown my students. The kids like them. There's some of them are long, so sometimes I only show them parts of them. I've shown my students the whole movie, The Great Debaters. Great movie. Inky Johnson, very inspirational story. He's got a number of different videos, really good. And then the last one is for you as much as it is for the students. Know Your Why. I think a lot of us have seen that one. It's a great movie, a great short video about how our why makes us more passionate at what we do, which makes us better. Every Kid Needs a Champion is about how if kids like us, it sure makes our job a lot easier. I mean, I know it's not right to say, well, you want to get all your kids to like you. Yeah, but kids learn better from a teacher they like. This is Angela Duckworth, so that grit video. And I know that it's missing the one thing, that's the passion and perseverance. And then we now know hardiness adds a little bit more. This is an awesome short little, and I don't know how to make those cute little videos, but about self-efficacy, which is that belief in yourself. You and your students need that as part of the growth. Empathy, I think that's a big part of self-efficacy is, you know, if you can empathize with your kids, you'll believe in your ability to help them because you'll feel what they're feeling, which allows you to be motivated. And then that last one I just showed you with Mr. Johnson. All right, so finally, so our takeaways are that let's make our classroom management plans meaningful. Let's think about them, reflect on them, be willing to write them, write your champs, write your achieves, teach this stuff to the students. You know, I think a lot of us didn't like that at first, like, what, I teach kids how to be on time to class? It's a little different though. Like, what is being in the door? What is being on time? Explain to them why we turn kids away 5 seconds late or 10 seconds late. Give them the rationale so that they understand it. You know what? It's good for that. One of my last things I'll tell you about videos. Show them a video. I'm trying to remember the one where a team, I feel like it was in the NBA playoffs. They would have won it, but they missed it by like 0.1 seconds. Like they originally said the field goal was good, and then they reviewed it, and no, it was still in his hands when the zeros hit. Sometimes late is late, and there's no margin for error on late is late. And so now the last thing I need you to do, so Justin, you can do this, is retake that survey and see if your beliefs have changed about classroom management. It looks like the same survey, but it says post instead of pre. And so thank you for watching, and thank you for filling out the survey data. And I can't wait to work with you guys all year as the instructional specialist for the math and just in general, because I'm really excited to see what we can do with classroom management plans around the building. Yay.